We're in the 16-bit era today for a battle of sorcery on the Megadrive and the Super Nintendo. But the question is this: is this game based on a flop movie simply Wizard? Or is it a load of old Warlocks? A cinematic puzzler in the style of Flashback and released by LJN on the Super Nintendo and Acclaim on the Megadrive in 1994, Warlock was based on the 1991 Supernatural movie that went on to have several sequels. But wait, how can a film be considered a flop and yet still get sequels? Who in the bloomin' hell do I think I am, calling this movie franchise starter a flop? Am I Sir Clive the Wrong? Am I having a stroke? What's going on here? No, let's just have a look, right, and see where I'm right, because the movie and its development might hold some secrets here. You see, while Warlock was actually a success for Trimark Pictures, the distributor company that owned the rights to the movie at the time of its release, well, they didn't actually make the movie, as they acquired the film for peanuts after original production company New World Pictures found themselves in financial shtuck in the late 1980s. The film itself, you see, was made in 1988 and put together for the sum of $15 million, which is small fry for movies, especially these days. However, the film had been sat on the shelves for those 2 years, and eventually it was purchased by this modest little movie house Trimark in the sort of movie equivalent of that yellow sticker clearance bit in the fridge in Tesco. And from that, they made their money back and more. It made $9 million back. Well, that was boring. Let's stop talking about financial successes of films and start talking about their content instead. The idea is that in the year 1691, quite a long time ago, as I'm sure you'll agree, the evil, villainous, devil-worshipping Warlock has been nabbed by Witchfinder Redfern. And in an interesting twist, Witchfinders aren't the sociopathic, puritanical dickheads they normally are in films and indeed were in real life. But in this case, they were totes McGroats, completely correct, and that Warlock fella needs to be brought to some sort of final justice. We know this because just as they're about to execute the Warlock, Satan himself appears and sends Mr. W. Lock far into the future. Now, if that doesn't implicate you, if you're hanging around with Satan, then I don't know what does. Redfern then decides that he's having none of that, and he jumps through the portal too, with the pair eventually ending up in the world of global hypercolour t-shirts that is the late 1980s. The Warlock has been tasked by his friendly neighbourhood Satan to get the Grimoire back, which is an ancient spellbook, with the eventual devilish aim to undo creation entirely. Redfern teams up with a young lady called Cassandra to put an end to this nonsense, and we get a very low budget mix of a time-reversed Terminator and Highlander as a result. What's not to like? The film, I guess? I'm being unfair. It's fine. It looks decidedly cheap 30 years on. By no means a classic, but it's entertaining fare. Julian Sands is the eponymous Warlock, and he's suitably hammy and creepy, and Cassandra is played by Laurie Singer, who apparently was a bit of a pain in the director's bum and refused to wear a lot of the prosthetics that would have made her character age in accordance with the curse placed on her by the Warlock. And look who it is. It's bloody Withnail himself, Richard E. Grant, playing the time-travelling Redfern. And look at his lovely, gloriously ridiculous mane. So we know the movie was a moderate success at its second attempt. However, it did have tragic consequences for one poor boy. You see, the movie's occult aspects were part of a murder court case in 1995 when 14-year-old Sandy Charles and his unnamed 8-year-old accomplice, Jesus Christ, murdered 7-year-old Jonathan Timpson in Saskatchewan, Canada, bringing forth a video nasties debate that was pretty similar to that one we had after the murder of Jamie Bolger. I think you'll remember the movie in question that time was Child's Play 2. Sandy Charles was allegedly completely obsessed with the movie Warlock and heard voices in his head instructing him to kill somebody. Let's move on to the game. Warlock the game was developed by Real Time Associates and, as previously mentioned, released on both the Megadrive and Super Nintendo in 1994, with a Jaguar version planned but quickly binned when the Jaguar proved to be as popular as a Jimmy Savile statue in a nursery. A side-scrolling wizard-based shooter casting you as a nameless druid. Yes, sadly you do not get to play as Richard E. Grant. I can't think of a game where you do get to play as Richard E. Grant. Maybe we should all make a game where you get to play as Richard E. Grant. Having said that, he does have the long, lank mullet, and as early 90s as Ricicles with Marshmallows in Edgelord Trenchcoat. So you could pretend you're playing as Withnail.
Yes, we'll buy this place, and we'll install a fucking jukebox in here. And I will all you stiffs up a bit.
Your job is to prevent the Warlock from gathering 6 ancient runestones, with which he and his boss can leave the entire world in the same state as a family home the day after a teenager has had a house party there. In other words, completely in ruins. Luckily, our hairy-necked gentleman hero is an ancestor of ancient magicians and can use 7 different spells in order to thwart the craven, satanic, destructive desires of the villainous Warlock. The Warlock will attempt to put a dampener on your contrarian efforts by throwing all manner of altered humans, demons, evil druids and wicked curses upon you. The animation is that post Another World Prince of Persia rotoscope smoothness, or at least an attempt at it, and overall graphically it's fine, if at times a bit Euro platformy in its look. The Super Nintendo version, I would say, shades the Mega Drive version, but Sega gets the last laugh as they get all that post Mortal Kombat gore and blood that obviously Nintendo weren't touching with anyone's barge pole. With that said, the Nintendo game doesn't completely get rid of the gore. Look at that health bar. What does that remind you of? I'll tell you what it reminds me of. Gameplay is sadly a bit bland, if anything, and the controls, well, they're very slow at responding. That rotoscope style graphic work has left the game very sluggish to play, with the character going through a series of animations before he'll actually turn around. It's a bit annoying. Most of the levels are pretty straightforward left to right affairs as well, so there's not much to keep you going there. It's all very bland, very grey wallpaper. It is a difficult game with relentless attacks from various underworldian denizens, but I couldn't say I was overly keen to overcome the steep learning curve. Another semi-interesting feature is in the Mega Drive version, if you put in the password ping-p on the options screen, you get to play a version of Pong where you control 2 wizards. Yes, Pong, but with wizards. It is what it is. There are worse games on both systems, but at least with bad games like BB's Kids or Batman Forever, well, at least they are memorably bad. Wor Luck is as exciting as a crest sandwich, and it really does cast a spell of absolute boredom upon anyone that dares play it, and there's no charm to prevent you instantly forgetting the incredibly tepid experience the next day. And that's a huge shame, because it is an exciting concept, the idea of wizards running around in a sort of modern environment, but there's just no magic to be found here. Anyway, that's it for today. Okay, thanks, bye.